If you are a frequent listener to the podcast, you know that we have been sponsored by Fuji Sports for quite some time now. Whether you're looking for apparel, equipment, bags, or accessories, Fuji Sports has got it covered. Go to fujisports.com to see the latest selection of everything you need for your jiu-jitsu, judo, or MMA journey. That's fujisports.com. Let me take a minute to tell you about RŌL TV. If you're looking to take your jiu-jitsu to the next level and supplement your BJJ education, then RŌL TV has you covered. RŌLAcademy.tv has over 1,500 videos covering individual techniques, positions, and concepts, including seminars and workshops with top-level competitors and instructors like Chris Wojcik, Robert Drysdale, Aaron Hurley, Emily Kwok, and more. Whether you are a beginner or a more advanced student, RŌL TV is the online platform that can take your jiu-jitsu to the next level. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This helps us bring you the great guests and amazing content that you've come to expect. In this conversation, Thomas's guest shares his journey through jiu-jitsu, discussing the importance of sleep, recovery, and fitness in maintaining performance. He emphasizes the mental aspects of jiu-jitsu, the complexity of the art, and the significance of community. He also reflects on his own experiences with hunting as a way to connect with nature and find mindfulness. Here's the RŌL Radio with a former top 10 in the world at 135-pound nogi, the first homegrown black belt out of 10th Planet San Diego under Richie Martinez, and the owner of the new 10th Planet Gym in Bastrop, Texas, Gabe Tuttle.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live. Gabe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How is your morning? How is your day going so far?
Yeah, morning's been good so far. I'm hanging out at my girlfriend's house. She's got a big plant wall over here, so I got the nice background, nice view for the podcast. But yeah, earlier this morning, just got a little private training session done with a few of my guys, and did a little sauna after, so I'm like nice and hot, little worn out early, but that's all right. The caffeine is bringing me back.
Is that important factor in your life? Caffeine is that?
I mean, not as much as it used to be. I mean, I used to, God, I don't even know. I was probably close to 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day when I was in my like late 20s, but I've tapered off a little bit now, but I still like my morning coffee at least. So I try to. The reason why
I ask because I used to be a huge coffee guy. I'm still am, but like I really limit to one cup in the morning, and I try not to. But I remember days, actually not that long ago, just a couple years ago, where like I was about to teach 6 p.m. class, and I had a cup of coffee, and it's like, I and it got to the point actually where it didn't affect me as much as far as sleep is concerned. Like I could have a coffee at 6 p.m. and go to bed at 10, like it, So I always find this interesting when I talk to different people, how,
Yeah, I was the same way, honestly. Like caffeine never really affected my sleep either, at least my ability to fall asleep. But I have a feeling it was still affecting my quality of sleep, even though I could get to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, that might just all be in my head, but yeah, I try to limit it now. If it's like 3-4 o'clock, I'll try to ride it out through the rest of the day, even if I'm feeling a little tired. But yeah, I was the same way. I used to like, I remember back in San Diego when I was training with Richie and that crew before I moved out to Austin, and there were, most nights when, we would end training like 9 o'clock, we get the gym closed down. I'd go home, make some food or order some food, and I would kill one of those yerba mates, those things. I think they got like 150 milligrams, maybe 200 milligrams of caffeine, like 10 p.m. and I'd be in bed an hour later.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But you're right. You're onto something there. And I'm not an expert on any of this, especially not on sleep. But I do believe that since I tempered this down, I feel like I sleep better. Mm-hmm. I never had an issue falling asleep, but I do remember many restless nights, if you will, waking up multiple times. And that doesn't happen as often, which I do appreciate. And my family appreciates when I wake
Yeah,
up in the morning. I'm not as cranky. You know what I mean?
yeah, the sleep is more and more important. I'm realizing, like, especially the older I get. Not that I'm like old, you know, I'm still like, you know, I'm 34 right now, but man, the sleep I've just realized is just so important for recovery and just your mental clarity, just being able to get through the, you know, the day with, you know, a little bit of energy and focus. Man, it's one of the things that I really try to prioritize nowadays more than I used to.
But that's an interesting conversation on its own. Like before we get into your life, which I do want to talk about,
Sure.
you mentioned something important. One, we do age, whether we like it or not, whether we admit it or not, we do age. And especially for us jiu-jitsu guys, often that converts into one wear and tear, right? Of just decades on the mat or years of being on the mat and just doing this amazing thing that we do. But also there's this component of recovery, one, and staying in shape, staying fit, staying mobile. Like all these components really have a lot to do with our results, especially after the age of 30. I feel like it really is becoming, you know, visible more and more, and closer you get to 40, more visible it is. Past 40, it's even more visible. And I've noticed as I was doing research on this, you're heavily into fitness. You work out with maces and other tools and other things. How do you think that's changing for you? Have you noticed a change in your body and in the ability to perform as you age up?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had an interesting relationship with like my strength and conditioning and fitness outside of jujitsu. Um, you know, I've like conventional lifting and stuff has just always been super like boring to me. I wish I liked it more. I wish I had more fun doing it, but you know, I usually like the periods of time where I've been most consistent with my strength and conditioning routine or any lifting routines have definitely been when I had like a little crew or somebody to help kind of push me, hold me accountable, you know, especially, you know, when I, you know, have over the years have had such a busy schedule, working for, you know, the couple gyms that I've been at and, you know, having a full teaching load. That's typically the first thing that I'll like kick off my list. If I get like a busy day, you know, that's like the first thing I'll remove. I'm like, oh, well, don't got time for that today. You know, easy thing to, to avoid. But I mean, there is no doubt that I do feel better when I am in a, better routine of lifting and doing some strength and conditioning, even if it's not like real heavy lifts or super, you know, like a, you know, strict protocol with my lifting, but even just minimal stuff just to like keep your symmetry together. You know, obviously like through jujitsu, you know, when we're squeezing people out and doing things, it's all like on one side of the body or the other. So I feel like it just kind of pulls you out of alignment. And I feel like that's where a lot of those like kind of nagging injuries happen. So just having a real easy, even like I said, if it's a light strength conditioning routine, I feel like it just builds the symmetry a little bit better, just puts you in place a little bit more. So I definitely think that allows you to just perform on the mats and just give your body a chance to recover a little bit better when you're doing that. So while I don't particularly have the most fun all the time keeping up with the strength conditioning routine, I definitely see the benefits. You know, there's no doubt about that.
Why do you think us jiu-jitsu guys are so resistant to other training methods? I feel like this is probably less than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But even to this day, it's like if you have this conversation with many, and some of them well-accomplished grapplers, you know, they'll say, yeah, I mean, I roll twice or three times a day, you know, but like the lifting and the conditioning, even mobility, even recovery, just the fact that we talked about sleep, but like even that is a secondary, if not third on the list as far as priority is concerned, which is not what it is in other sports.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple things. One is I think just that you know, the idea that jujitsu is built for the smaller, like weaker person. So I think that's an easy kind of scapegoat or like cop out for people if they're like, oh, I don't need to lift. Jiu-jitsu's for the small guy. I don't need to lift. I'm going to be able to strangle these big, strong guys anyways. So I think that's part of it. It's a little bit of, like I said, it's a little bit of a cop out to just be, choose that answer. But I think another thing of it, at least for me personally, whenever I'm going into the gym, like let's say, I'm going in with the intention to do some lifting maybe before a jiu-jitsu class. I'll show up there and I get to talking with people, just at the gym, just bullshitting a little bit. And then we start talking technique and we hop on the mats and we're playing around a little bit. And now all of a sudden I'm like, man, I don't want to go lift right now. I'm already on the mats. Let me just do some jiu-jitsu. This is way more fun. So that's why like nowadays I need to go somewhere separate to go lift. I can't go to the jiu-jitsu gym, like my jiu-jitsu gym to lift. I need to like go to like a Gold's gym or something, like where I cannot just walk onto the jiu-jitsu mats and forget about the strength conditioning I was going to do.
Yeah, I'm laughing because this is so true. I didn't even think about it that way. But like I find myself so many times, even like I'm leaving the academy. Somebody catches me, hey, can I ask you something? And then like 45 minutes later, I'm still engaged and I was supposed to be gone a long time ago.
Sure.
Yeah, why is it so addicting in a sense? Like, why are we such a nerds when it comes to that? And nothing else matters, even though we might have had a plan or like we wanted to do something else.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like what keeps us there is, of course, the passion. It's so easy to get caught up with, talking about things that that you're, like speak to your soul. It's just very easy to get wrapped up in that. Obviously, if someone opens up that conversation about a technique or this or that, very easy to lose track of time and just start digging into things. But where the passion comes from, that I don't know. That's a good question. Obviously, I'm sure it's a little different for everybody, but
well, where is your passion? Like what makes you, what keeps you a nerd of jiu-jitsu? Like,
I mean, it's definitely very like cerebral activity. So it keeps me engaged. I'm like a very I guess like busy-minded person. I always got stuff going on in my head. It's like very rare that I can just like sit down and have a clear just kind of unbusy mind. Like, like I said, I'm always kind of wrestling with different ideas, and sometimes they're more casual than others, but my mind is always moving. So for jiu-jitsu, I think it just allows me to shift my focus to something maybe that's a little bit more like relevant or useful to me in my life. And
well, let me ask you this. It almost sounds like I 100% agree with you. But somebody who's listening to this, who maybe just started jiu-jitsu, perhaps they want to start, they are probably thinking, this is like an oxymoron. You guys are idiots. Like, first, you want to be fighting on the ground. That's one. There's nothing cerebral about this. Like, what are you talking about? And yet, after probably a year, maybe two, it comes from different people. Many describe jiu-jitsu as more mental stimulating than physically stimulating.
Sure.
So what is going on here?
Yeah. I mean, and I get the notion too. Like I get the idea because from to the untrained eye, someone who's removed from jiu-jitsu, I just don't think they understand the depth of it, because all they are seeing are like two guys, just battling it out with, physicality. But once you really start to dig into the layers of jiu-jitsu, you realize how deep it actually goes. I mean, there's a reason why, you can train jiu-jitsu for, 10 plus years, get a black belt, and still have a round with somebody, have a roll with somebody where you're like, Jesus Christ, do I know anything? Like what the hell is going on here? So I think it's, like I said, it's just the untrained eye, if people really start to get in here and peel the layers back, they'll start to realize how deep the technique goes and just how, I mean, it really is, it's cliche to say it's like, oh, it's like a, a chess match, but I think it goes even deeper than that. It's just, there are, an infinite number of scenarios that can happen in any given role. And one, even just little minor changes to how you're approaching somebody or connecting with somebody, I mean, just splits off another 10 million other scenarios that could happen. So, yeah, I think it's
do you feel that
ignorance, not ignorance in a bad way, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you ever find that frustrating in a sense of, I've been on the mat for this long and like, what the hell? Like, why nobody ever showed me this?
Sure.
Like, how did we miss that boat?
That doesn't happen to me too often anymore. But when it does, I feel actually excited about it. Every now and then I'll just see, and it's usually something subtle too. As you get deeper into jiu-jitsu and figuring out these techniques and trying to apply them live, you realize everything, your success and failure in any technique, any move is in those small details. So usually it's the little details, the little nuances that you'll pick up on. And yeah, I'm always excited about it. It doesn't frustrate me anymore. It just excites me now.
Why is it that when we are starting, we focus on these big things, and whether it's a transition or smashing somebody or even escaping, but these are big items, heavy items in grappling or jiu-jitsu. But the longer we train, we talk about these little things. Things shifts drastically the longer we train, and many actually describe the moment you get to the black belt is almost like starting over. I recently posted a video of that, and it's so different than it's often even viewed in other martial arts. If we look at going like towards traditional martial arts, jiu-jitsu is such a unique environment, if you will, from that perspective. Why is it like this? Why, like, after decades of teaching of this jiu-jitsu thing being around for as much as it has been, like, somebody should say, stop focusing on the big things and focus on the little things. Well, nobody listens anyway. Like, so everybody, I feel like everybody who's starting wants to just, do these big things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that there's a couple of reasons for that too. I think, like, one, the bigger goals, whatever, that's I think easier for newer guys to come in and just kind of see the whole picture. But I think if you give them too much of the little details, the little nuances, things like that, before they kind of understand the greater technique or the greater goal, whatever you're looking at, kind of rudimentarily, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed, with the information. So that's like one of the things, like when I'm teaching like like a mixed levels class where, you do have some more advanced guys that they probably do need those little details. That's what they're there for. But the newer guys, those little details, like I said, it might go over their head, or it might be too much information. The information overload is a real thing. Mm-hmm. So finding that balance where you give the greater picture, you lay out kind of the foundational things about the technique or the topic, while not overwhelming the new guys with the little details. Like I said, I think it's easy to give an information overload, again, just because of, as we mentioned, just how deep the jiu-jitsu goes, the technique goes, how many layers there are to a single technique that you got to peel away. So
somebody recently actually described this topic in a sense of, it's almost like riding a bike when you are 5 or 4, whatever. I mean, it's like if you tell a child, hey, hold on to the handles, watch your balance, you need to pedal forward at the same time, and then you need to close your kickstand and all. It's like there is no way they will ever succeed here, versus all you do is just don't fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Just stay balanced. Don't worry about anything else. Just stay balanced. Right? And they kind of go gradually, step by step. I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like that thought process, because again, like when you're, let's just use that kind of analogy. You're teaching someone how to ride a bike, whatever. Yeah, maybe that's the main thing you want them to think about is, hey, just try to balance, just try not to fall. All the other little tells that you give them, which helps them balance and helps them not fall, you can give them maybe, each time they do fall and they get back on the bike, you're like, okay, cool, you did a good job. Now think about this. Now think about, pedaling and, leaning forward. And then maybe, they have another couple runs at it with that in mind. They fall a couple more times, you pull them back up, and then you're like, hey, now think about doing this little thing that's going to help you balance and steer a little bit easier. So you gradually put those little details on them, but you let them kind of work through it a little bit first. You let those first details or those first instructions you gave them, you give that a chance, or you give them a chance rather for that to settle in with them before you start putting more little things on them.
With that being said, do you find jiu-jitsu as complex or as easy? I feel like there's these two different notions in just jiu-jitsu conversations. Some instructors say, don't overcomplicate things. Jiu-jitsu is easy. Like it falls into these 5 principles, and I'm not saying diluting it or watering it down, but they really pin it into these 5 things. Like, and the other guys will talk about, jiu-jitsu is not easy. It's hard. It's complex. Don't downplay it. Like, you need to think. You need to make decisions.
Sure.
Where do you fall into the scale of complexity?
I mean, I definitely think that that jiu-jitsu is very complex. I think it is at least like mastery of it, or mastery as close as we can get to mastering it. It is very complex and it's very hard, and it's going to take a lot of time and dedication and thought and energy dumped into it. But at the same time, I will admit that there are times where I think you can be guilty of overthinking things and overcomplicating things. And again, I think that comes back to the idea of, when people, approach jiu-jitsu, they know, oh man, like this is super complex, and they're really trying to engage. And sometimes the simple, easy solution to a problem that you might think, oh, no, that's too easy, that can't be the right answer, is the right answer. So sometimes, I'll catch people, in class where they're, I can tell they're doing a little too much.
Yeah.
Hey, you're overthinking it right now. Just, stick to this idea and you're going to get through the guard, or stick to this idea and you're going to get your sweep, whatever the case may be. So I think people can be guilty of overcomplicating things and making things a little harder for themselves. But I think that's on a smaller scale. On the larger scale, I am on the side of thinking that jiu-jitsu is an extremely complex thing, and it does take a lot of time and dedication to really get a grasp of.
I'm laughing because earlier this week I had a conversation with a couple of my guys, and they asked me a question, and I said, well, just focus on this area right here, just this grip, this elbow positioning is important. And they are like, no, and they reversed, and I was like, this is too easy. I was like,
sure,
well, maybe you're overthinking this. Maybe this is easy. Like, it just boils down to this very simple thing. And I was like, I hate you right now. They're like, so there is something behind what you are saying. I think there is a complexity to all of this. At the same time, our human minds are sometimes make it more complex than it really has to be. How does all of this started for you? Where is the first day the Gabe stepped onto the mats?
Yeah, well, I've been a big fan of just the sport of MMA for a long time. I've been watching MMA since like the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003 probably. So that's kind of how I got exposed to jiu-jitsu. And my first time on the mats, I was like 17 or 18 probably. And I went in and took a nogi class. And I was rolling my first round. I rolled with some, I don't know, he's probably like a 15 or 16-year-old kid, a little smaller than me. And I now, in hindsight, know that I got hit with like a go-go plata. At the time, I didn't know what the hell was happening. I just saw a foot.
That's a good one to get caught into.
I'm on top of this dude. I'm all wrapped up. I have no idea what's happening. So that was kind of my introduction, and it was, like leaving that class. I had just decided like, dude, this is like some black magic. Like, again, I had been exposed to it a little bit, obviously like just through watching MMA, but
Walk me through that day.
happened live, man, that's a completely different experience. So that changed it for me. Feeling it is different than seeing it. So I was like, man, this is like, yeah, this is some black magic that I need to harness myself.
Walk me through that day. First of all, what gets you to jiu-jitsu? Is this your decision? Somebody? How old were you? 17, you said?
I think I was probably 17 at the time. I may have just turned 18.
Okay. I think this story is interesting for many reasons here. So you're 17. So you're almost adult, not adult. You make kind of sort of your decisions. I would imagine your parents probably are involved in this. Oh, you have a dog. Look at that.
Yes, my girlfriend's dog.
Look at that. Oh,
get some love.
We have a guest on the show. Look at that. So you're 17, 18. What triggers you to make the decision to go?
A few things, man. I was always kind of a wild kid, growing up. A lot of energy, like to roughhouse and whatever. And I didn't really get involved in any sports growing up, so I didn't have like a really good outlet for that. Like I said, I was just growing up roughhousing with friends and whatever. And then again, just, really enjoying the sport of MMA. And then through that, I got, on are involved in listening to some podcasts and things. So I think it was a combination of, again, just me being kind of a crazy kid coming up and not having a good outlet for it, being a big fan of MMA in general, and then getting or hearing like basically unanimously good things from people that have trained just on podcasts and stuff I've listened to. So I finally, my brother, he also took that class with me. We both just kind of decided, hey, you know what, this sounds like a good thing to get into. I think this would be beneficial for both of us. I think we both get a lot out of it. So we both went down there together and took that class. And it took it took us both a little bit of while to circle back around to jiu-jitsu. I think I trained a little bit during that kind of first month that I was there at that school, and kind of fell off for a couple of years probably until I circled back around to jiu-jitsu. Funnily enough, my brother.
So hold on. Yeah. I still want to talk about the first day. Hold on, because this is interesting. So you're 17 and 18. You exposed to UFC and MMA in general. You make a decision to go with your brother. You guys both go in. Brother is older or younger?
He's older. He's 3 years old.
He's older. Okay, sounds good. So you're the younger one. You go in and you get caught by 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So I think that's the interesting moment.
Yeah.
That's So when this is happening, like, do you feel you are in control? Like, do you feel that you got this? You this is happening in your favor, and then you get caught? Element of surprise.
I will say that I at least had some humility even back then, where I entered the gym under the impression, hey, I'm probably going to get strangled. No big deal. I've seen the early UFCs and stuff. I've seen Royce Gracie at 185 pounds strangling all these big dudes. So I'm like, okay, I know it's possible. I know it could happen, whatever. But I will say, in the moment while I was rolling with that kid, I was like, I think I'm doing okay here. I don't know how much experience he has. Things are going all right. I'm on top. I'm moving. I feel good. And then again, I'm like, before I know it, I'm wrapped up. I'm getting choked. I got his foot in my face somewhere. I don't even know how the hell it's up there. So a little of both, I guess. I entered with an idea, but
well, the main reason I asked this, and I asked this almost every guest that I have, because I feel like all of our stories are different.
Mm-hmm.
However, they all have this common denominator where most of us walk in with this perception that we have of, I'm on top, I'm going to win, you need to deal with me, and then somehow the tables turn.
Oh yeah.
And somehow there's this element of surprise. Oh shit, and like, this didn't go my way. So this is always fascinating for me. how what's happening in our mind. So you sitting in that locker room, or perhaps you going back home. Do you talk to your brother? What happened? Like, do you tell him like I just got caught by 14-year-old?
In the moment, to be honest, I don't even remember. I know my brother knows the story now. I've recounted it, and a couple times, but in the moment, I don't know. I don't remember the conversation I had with him leaving, to be honest.
So a few years pass by. Mm-hmm. What makes you return?
Even when I stopped training initially, when I first signed up for that 1 month of training, and I just went, kind of a handful of times, I don't know, I think I was just young and kind of trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. My schedule was a little all over the place. I'd just graduated, was, getting set up for college. I had no idea what I wanted to go to school for, kind of working just random dead end jobs, just fumbling around, just not really sure what I was doing with myself. So I think I was just in the wrong place to really commit to something serious like that. So I think it just took me a couple of years for me to settle into a schedule with my life and figure things out a little bit, get a little direction at least, until I had stability to return.
So it's safe to say that doing jiu-jitsu for a living is not even on the horizon at that point. Like,
no, not at all. Not at that point, not that early.
Okay.
No, yeah. If you had told me after that first class that I would be where I am right now doing what I'm doing, it's not necessarily out of the realms. Like I could probably have pictured myself doing it, but thinking about the reality, I would have been like, wide-eyed, like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Is it crazy because it's not achievable from a skill set perspective, or is it crazy because it's scary that this is unconventional?
Definitely
life.
some of both. And again, coming up, watching MMA and listening to podcasts of people talk about jiu-jitsu, I didn't fully understand the depth of it and the what it meant to get a black belt and be a good instructor and run a school. But I at least had a little bit of an idea. Like I could see the people that were in those positions, and I was like, man, those guys, their work ethic is second to none. I know how much, or have an idea at least how much work they put in, how much hard times they probably had to work through to be where they're at. But yeah, also the unconventional career path was probably something that was something that I had thought about. But luckily, my in my family, I've got, my dad and a few other people in my family, even my older brother, they have kind of unconventional career paths also. So I think that was a little bit easier for me to get past. But yeah, to some degree for sure, you grow up, with the idea that, I'm going to go, finish high school, get good grades. I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to get a degree, and then I'm going to find, some random, kind of 9-to-5 job. So that was my thought process for sure until I really started training heavily. And,
does your brother return with you to jiu-jitsu, or your paths are different?
Say that one more time.
Does your brother return to jiu-jitsu with you?
Yeah, he's back in it now. So it took him a little bit longer to circle back around. He actually he waited until I was a black belt before he started training again. But he's a purple belt under me right now. He lives out here in Texas with me, so he's training. He's good too.
So the bottom line,
he started training right when I moved out to Austin, right at the beginning of 2020. He started training under PJ Barch, who I came up with. I have a lot of hours and time spent with PJ Barch on the mats. We both came up together in the same room, but my brother started training with him, got his blue belt from him, and then moved out here to Texas and has since got his purple belt from me. So it's good to have him back in the mix.
How is that dynamic between you two brothers? One is a black belt, the other one's a purple belt. One is older, the other is younger.
Yeah. Man, honestly, it's a great dynamic. Me and my brother have always had a pretty good relationship, all things considered. I know growing up, two boys, two brothers, especially, just a few years apart, probably, it's common for them to be combative and be kind of, feuding with each other. But man, even when we were kids, it never got that bad. We always, I always was confident that he had my back. And I think he's always been confident I've had his back. So, especially now that we're older, a little more mature and still with that, that mindset, man, we have a great relationship in the gym.
Well, good for you. Good for you. I think that's important. I think with how today's life is in general is structured, I think some of those relationships drift away, if you will, and no life takes us in different directions. So it's good to hear that the bond is strong, especially between siblings. Absolutely. I think what's interesting about your life in general, that there is a huge nature component to all of this. And before we start recording, I did mention that I want to pick your brain on this, because this is actually not only unconventional in a sense, but also unheard of in the jiu-jitsu environment. Like, you hunt, right? Like, why? Like, I'm going to ask stupid questions because I don't hunt, so I don't understand hunting. But like, why hunting? Why not just go to the store and get your food? Yeah. What takes you about this?
Yeah, I mean, kind of one of the most important aspects of that is just having a better, not just idea, but just a better connection to where your food is coming from. Especially in the U.S. especially, I don't trust any food. Any labels coming in, like, there's loopholes to get around it, and there's a lot of different ways that these big companies that are out to make a profit, they're making things, or providing us food the cheapest way possible, the shittiest way possible, and the quality of the food is just not there. It's a very low quality. So
is there more to this? Is there more to this besides the nutrition factor?
Yeah, I mean, and there is something to be said too about not just having the higher quality food and kind of knowing where it's coming from, what kind of nutrition is going into the animal and thus into you. There's something about hunting, actually, to me, that's a little bit reminiscent of one of the main reasons why I like jiu-jitsu. I mentioned earlier that I'm a very busy-minded person. My mind is almost never at rest. One of the only times that I find myself at rest in my head, where I'm not thinking about, hey, what am I doing tomorrow? Hey, what's going on over here? I'm not like running through a bunch of ideas and thoughts, is when I'm on the mats training. You have to be very present when you're in there rolling with people. So it gives my mind a break. I can get out of my head for a little while when I'm training. So that's one of the reasons why I love training so much, and I love jiu-jitsu so much. It turns my mind off for a little while, and I get a little bit of reprieve. But I found that hunting does that as well. When I'm out there and I'm kind of just sitting down in nature, and I don't got any distractions, I'm not messing with my phone, I'm not having to think about this or think about that. I'm very present. I got to be attentive and kind of quiet, and just making sure that I've got my all the surroundings are being checked. You know what I mean?
Why is it that we have to, in both cases, hunting and jiu-jitsu, which some might actually say that jiu-jitsu is hunting in a way?
Sure.
Why is it that we need to have a clear mind, undivided focus, remove the distractions, and really be present at the moment? And you're not the first one who said this actually on the show. Is many use jiu-jitsu as to leave all the garbage behind, but others really emphasize this. If we talk about efficiencies, like, you need to focus, you need to know what you are doing, be present, be active with your mind. Why is it?
I mean, I guess the easiest answer would just be so you don't get strangled. If you're thinking about too much stuff and you're not worrying about what this dude's doing, trying to get through your guard and trying to get a hold of your neck, it's probably not going to work out for you. So, I think that's the easiest answer, I guess.
And what's the more challenging answer?
I don't know. I mean, they're like, it's kind of hard to articulate, I guess. But when you're doing something that feels so primal yet like so intimate,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it just your body just responds, like I said, in that more like primal state. I don't think us as getting a little deeper here, but us as human beings, I don't think we're meant to be constantly worrying about 10 million things. I think we're much more like simple creatures, like we're animals, at the end of the day, like we were just walking around as nomadic people. We're really only worried about like getting food and making sure that we got somewhere to sleep and we got our people around us. So I think we overcomplicate a lot of things in our heads, just this, I don't know, not turmoil, but you constantly have things going on in yourself. But
well, it's almost like a contradiction of itself, right? Because in some ways we can talk about how technology makes things easier for us, and even in jiu-jitsu environment, like every single instruction is available on damn phone, and it's like I can pull it up today. Like I don't have an answer, boom, here it is, free or paid, doesn't matter, so many options, and I can give you probably hundreds of different flavors of it.
oh yeah,
But yet on the opposite side of the spectrum, we talk about this being constant connection, constant worry, anxiety, stress, depression, all that layering on the top of all this. And today we already know that phones are a huge contributor to all of this.
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
so which one is it? Like, let's just be flat out about this. Like, should we be connected or should we be not connected? And I think this is the interesting part behind this, because when we talk about what you're describing as far as hunting and nature and being out there where you don't have these distractions, you appear to be happy, at least from what you are telling me.
yeah.
So which one is it? Like, should we be connected or should we be disconnected?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just you just got to have a proper balance. Obviously the technology has enhanced a lot of things, jiu-jitsu included, like you mentioned. You got instructionals from some of the best teachers, of our age, just right at your fingertips. So, and that's why I think you see a lot of these like young kids kind of coming up that are maybe they've only been training 5-6 years, but they're already at a world-class level. That's why they're able to get the best instruction, just streamline all the techniques that would normally take a lot of trial and error to work out if you're just kind of closed off in a gym and you don't really have a network, you don't have online resources. It takes a lot of trial and error to figure out, a lot of time, but they're able to skip over all these problems, all that trial and error. They don't need to do that because somebody else already did it for them and then told them what the pathway is. So I think there just has to be a balance, and how much you're relying on these things. And I will say that at times I want to just throw my phone away. Like I don't even want to be connected either. But it obviously has its benefits as well. I like having a network too. I like being able to talk to, my friends like back in San Diego where I'm from. Like I like being connected to them. I like being able to just text them in the middle of the day and have an interaction. But yeah, I think it is a slippery slope though. If you get too reliant on these things, I don't think you move through the world the way maybe we were meant to, if that makes sense.
Is that why jiu-jitsu is getting so popular these days, that it does give us this disconnect, leave things outside of the door and be present at the moment without distractions?
Yeah, I would say that is definitely a benefit for a lot of people. Like I said, when you are in there on the mats, yeah, you don't got your phone. You're not looking at your phone. You're not worrying about social media. I mean, you are like in a very, as I said, like a very primal activity. And Yeah, I think it is a good way for people to decompress, even though it's a a very like active thing that you're doing. It's still again like a mental decompression. Maybe not a physical one, but I think it does serve as a good reset for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys who have trained for extensive period of time, would agree with this, and I think that's a common point of conversation oftentimes. How it becomes this be present, be in the moment. It really helps us not only on the mat but off the mat as well. It kind of translates that into our life, and we just become better humans. And I think that's really important for all of us. As this world is becoming more crazy every single day. What are the common denominators that you found between hunting and jiu-jitsu? You said that there are some similarities that you've noticed from the being present, but is there anything else beyond that?
I mean that's definitely the biggest crossover that I've seen or felt. But I'm sure if I really gave it some thought, I gave it a little extra time to think about, I could probably pinpoint a couple things. But that's definitely the biggest crossover that I've seen, and just the psyche that you go into each activity with.
How often do you hunt?
So the whitetail season out here in Texas that's primarily the bulk of the hunting that I'm doing is just whitetail out here. And the season starts up in October and ends usually like early mid-January. So those are the main months that I'm hunting, but
So like
I try to sneak out
3-4 months.
Yeah, I try to sneak out though at other times of the year to do other, random things like, out here in Texas, really every state, to be honest, has like a pig problem. So you can hunt those year round. And I'll try to do, some trips kind of sporadically, maybe not every year, but the past couple of years I've gone to Alaska, did some fishing and hunting up there, which was a lot of fun. But, again, those are kind of bigger, trips you'll do like maybe once a year. So bulk of the year, I'm not doing a ton of hunting, but I try to really pack it in there during those 4 months.
That's where you are MIA, out in nature, huh?
Yeah, all my weekends. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing.
Good for you. That's awesome. Why Austin? Why Texas? Why not somewhere else? What made you shift over?
So, I was previously at 10th Planet San Diego with Richie Martinez. Gio Martinez too. Gio is the head instructor up in like Northern County, San Diego, Oceanside. But I was down primarily training with Richie in San Diego, like the heart of San Diego. So I was previously out there, teaching full time, managing that gym. And, I was just kind of coming to a point in my life where I think I needed to kind of get away and be in a new place. I was born and raised in San Diego. I've never lived outside of that city. And, I had an opportunity in Austin to come out here and start teaching full time and start helping to manage the 10th Planet in Austin as well. So, it just seemed like a good opportunity and the right thing for me, at that time in my life.
Scary?
So, moved out like right at the beginning of 2020. That was, unbeknownst to me at the time, a few months later, we would be locked down dealing with all the COVID stuff. So that was interesting, having to deal with that. Just a couple months after moving out here and not really knowing anybody and not really having, like a tribe of people around me yet. But we made it through. And
was that scary?
Yeah, for sure. There were times. Yeah, no doubt. It was, just scary, mainly because of the uncertainty.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking this is because literally November, December of 19, which is right before the COVID, we expanded my academy. We doubled the amount of space.
Oh, jeez.
and then we get hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So imagine that. So like I completely share the fear of unknown, and like I even remember at that time we are thinking, oh, this is going to be 3 weeks. It's not
Yeah,
that big of a
yeah.
deal. We're like, God, we're going to get through this.
Little did we know.
Yeah.
Luckily Austin, Texas in general, but like, here in Austin, at least I can speak on, places weren't, locked down too crazy for too long, which, obviously is a big part of why we had such an influx of people moving out here. So, man, things, blew up here in Austin, and I just happened to be here kind of at the right time. So, I felt very lucky to kind of get my roots in a little bit. And then again, all these other big schools and big teams and, high level competitors are all moving out here. And, Austin really, like, it became like the Mecca of jiu-jitsu in the world. Now, I would still say it still is.
Yeah, it's like where New York used to be, or where California used to be, right?
Yeah,
Like
those were the two big ones for sure. Is New York and then Southern California. A lot of them, they just moved out to Austin and settled out here. So,
Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing for you personally, and just for jiu-jitsu itself, where we have these hubs, if you will, of higher saturation?
Yeah, I will say having all these high level teams out here and a lot of high level training partners. I mean, the level of jiu-jitsu here in Austin is insane. I mean, if you go to like just some random open mats, or, you go to some of these big schools in a random class, dude, you could be rolling with like a purple belt who's again, like world class. Like he feels like a fucking high level black belt. I've rolled with a lot of the best guys in the world. I've trained with a lot of the best guys in the world, competed with some of them as well. And I'm telling you, like, there's random purple belts that you'll see in some of these gyms that you're like, oh my God, like you feel world class. You feel like you could right now go, compete and probably not do bad in, some of the biggest tournaments in the world.
But some might say this is not a good thing, because it takes away from your pile, if you will, from your bucket, right? Like,
yeah,
like there's these arguments of perhaps some of the instructors are less secure in what they offer, or just in life in general. But like there's this, it's always interesting topic to discuss, whether the competition is a good thing, or is it you prefer not to have any.
Yeah. I mean, so I definitely see that point of view, and there is something to be said about like having that scarcity mindset. The way that I look at it, at least like here in Austin in my situation, the influx of these big schools and these big instructors and, high level guys also brought a lot of other people moving out here for jiu-jitsu as well. So I think that while, yes, the competition definitely went up, and there's going to be people definitely that are maybe jumping ship to go train over at another school if, another big one comes in, I think just the level of jiu-jitsu in the city brings out a ton of people who want to come train jiu-jitsu, and it just builds up the culture of jiu-jitsu more, so more people start to train. So the way that I look at it, I think, having, a lot of these options and a lot of different schools and a lot of different personalities and instructors in the mix, I think just brings the whole city up. And I think a lot more people are training jiu-jitsu. I think the culture of jiu-jitsu is stronger in the city. So yeah, I mean, I could see both, both points, but for me, I think it's only elevated things.
Well, it's like the coffee shop effect, right? It's like if you have one coffee shop in the corner, you're going to gain a certain amount of clients, but there's 2 or 3 in the nearby facility. More people in general will drink coffee. Yeah. And as a result of it, like we all are benefiting. Like we don't have to kill each other over the competition, as long as we stay in a healthy relationship, competing relationship, right?
For sure.
Why do you think some people are insecure about this? Like it's like what you are describing is a very mature way of thinking about it. It's a very, confident way of talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you have to be, as you mentioned, confident. Like you have to be confident in your skill set and what you have to offer, and the quality of the classes that you teach if you're an instructor. So I think the only people that are going to be looking at it in a negative light are the ones who are in themselves maybe insecure. They're not confident going head to head with some of these other instructors because, you know, their skill set maybe does not you know, match some of these other guys. But, you know, at the end of the day too, there's a reason why not every world champion owns and runs a successful gym. You know, you don't necessarily have to be, you know, you don't have to be Gordon Ryan to open up a gym here. You know what I mean? Yes, it helps having that name and people respecting your jiu-jitsu and knowing, hey, this guy's got, you know, he's got great technique. He's going to teach me all the good stuff. But, you know, you have to, you know, build a community and a culture in the gym that people are drawn to also. And not everybody has the skill set to do that. They might have a skill set in jiu-jitsu, but they might not have a skill set in actually building a strong culture and a strong community. So yeah, you got to know what your strengths are and lean into those strengths, and yeah, just be confident in what you have to offer.
Is that community important?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why?
I mean, if you ask, you know, 20 of your students, hey, you know, what is like, you know, what are you in here for? What are you training jiu-jitsu for? You're going to have a handful of people that are going to be like, oh, you know, I want to like learn self-defense. I want to be confident walking around on the street and just knowing that, you know, I'm not going to get, you know, mugged by some random dude. And some people are going to be like, oh, you know, I want like the fitness and, you know, staying healthy and having, you know, kind of an active lifestyle. But the majority of people I talk to, like that is what they're looking for. That's their main driving factor of training is, hey, I want like a community. I want good people around me, good, genuine people around me. And
but why is that? Because again, for somebody who doesn't train, that sounds like almost a stupid idea. It's like, first, you're paying to hang out with other people. Like what? You know what I mean? And I completely understand what you're saying. Like for somebody who's been on the inside, a part of this for decades, is like I completely understand where you're coming from. But like, what is the main reasoning here? Like, I'm paying you to teach me things, yet you're talking about us hanging out together.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think with jiu-jitsu specifically, the bonds and the friendships that you create, I would say are a little more, I don't want to say more meaningful, but they're a little deeper. Just because, like, you know, just through training, you are forced to be, you have a certain level of vulnerability with your training partners, with the people around you. And I think when you are able to be vulnerable with people and kind of let those walls down and, like I said, just be a little bit more intimate with them, I think it puts together stronger friendships. And that's why, you know, you hear about people in jiu-jitsu that train together that are so close. You know, even when you compare, you know, maybe their friendships to someone who they've known for a long time, but maybe doesn't train with them, the bond is just different. And even like nowadays for me, like, man, I would say almost my entire friend group are guys that I train with, you know, and I think that, I guess a part of that has to do with like me finding jiu-jitsu in my 20s. That's a natural time where, you know, people kind of drift apart anyways. They take different paths in life. But yeah, I mean, all my strong, meaningful friendships, like these are friendships I've made on the mats.
Why is this so difficult for us jiu-jitsu guys to find a friend outside of jiu-jitsu? I mean, like I even know I have like a couple neighbors of mine. Like we'll talk on a Sunday or Saturday, but like our conversation is not the same as like I can bullshit to my guys for, you know, my jiu-jitsu guys for hours.
Yeah. I think part of it is just going back to, you know, what we were talking about earlier, where we're all just nerds. We're all jiu-jitsu nerds. So, you know, having to, you know, just do kind of small talk with other people just, you know, feels kind of less important. You know, it's easy to just kind of brush off as, you know, that's fun, easy small talk conversation, but the substance is not there.
Yeah. And that's kind of bridging back to that community, to that bond, which gets created by being present on the mat almost putting your life in their hands in some sense, right? Because that
Yeah,
trust
for
that's
sure. Yeah,
being
that's another
developed, right?
word too that is important. Like vulnerability, but trust as well. Like you
Yeah.
got to have a level of trust built with your partners. So again, that further strengthens those friendships and those bonds. Being vulnerable, having trust in them.
So how do you build that trust? Like from one side, you're a new student, you're coming into an academy, you step on the mat, and like people will be strangling you. They want to smash you,
Yeah.
they want to destroy you. I mean, in some sense, right? Like, but how you develop that trust, like,
Yeah, I mean, I think really it just comes down to building a rapport with everybody.
Yeah.
Like obviously not everybody has the same personality. Not everybody interacts with you the same way that somebody else is going to. So I think that takes a little bit of experience on your end to understand and start to get a read on people where you're like, okay, this is kind of how this person operates. This is how this person communicates. This is how, kind of our back and forth goes. But just building a rapport with people is important. Just so you can figure out how you're going to roll with them, how you're going to talk to them, how you're going to coach them. So, yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be a little bit adaptable to kind of getting reads on people, but it all comes to just building a rapport. So I usually, like me personally, I'll typically start off, especially if we're like just talking about like rolling with people. I start pretty gingerly, and we kind of ramp up into the rounds, and after you get a few rounds with someone, you understand kind of the pace that they like to roll at, and how mean you can be with things like
I like
that.
the quotes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you just the experience of dealing with a lot of people and just building the rapport little by little.
So like you were describing a different intensity and purpose with training with different individuals and having that scalable approach to training. Is how come some have difficult time with that? Like how come some guys will just want to go balls to the wall, skulls to the floor? Like why?
Yeah. I mean, like a short answer would just be maturity.
Yeah.
I don't see that often from black belts.
Why?
Where they have like one speed. And again, I think it's just, well, one is maturity. Two is like, I can speak for, myself too, is like, man, I'm not trying to have that roll every time I get on the mats. Like every single round I have, I am not trying to go to war every single round. I did enough of that as a lower, belt kind of coming up through the ranks. Nowadays, especially again, getting older, as we talked about, man, your body just takes the abuse a little bit harder. So I'm happy when I have the rounds where I can have a high intensity but less impact, a high intensity but low impact round where we're still moving, we're still working, but we're not smashing heads, And it's fun to have those rounds still every now and then, but you gotta, I think have them a little bit more few and far between than maybe we did as purple belts.
Why is that so hard for the lower belts, for the less experienced guys to process that information? That not every round has to be a war. Like,
Sure.
I think every instructor goes through this. It's like
Yeah,
you're looking around the room and you see, I don't know, Bobby Joe, and they are just smashing skulls, and it's like, Bobby, stop doing that. He's like, I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. I mean, I think a part of that is probably they got something to prove.
yeah.
When you're mature as a black belt, you've been maybe teaching classes for a long time, you've already had a competition career, whatever, man, you don't got anything to prove. You're on the mats to have a good time and have good experience with everybody. But I think maybe as you're coming up, maybe you are like a purple belt, you still feel like you got something to prove, and especially when you're rolling in front of coach, you want to show off your skill set. You want to make sure that he's seeing the progress you've made. Like, man, when I was a purple belt, I was a fucking menace. We'd have black belts coming in to visit, and I would just fucking attack them just mercilessly. And just looking back on it now, I'm like, dude, these guys were probably these black belts coming in, even if they were like, black belts who've competed, who have a school, etc. Like, man, they're on vacation in San Diego. They were like just at brunch a couple hours ago. They probably had some drinks the night before. They're going to the beach after class. And it's like, dude, you have this young, hungry purple belt just fucking attacking you while you're on vacation. It's like, man, I wish I could have been there to tell myself, like, hey, dude, chill out. He's not here for that right now.
You are that guy, huh?
I was that guy. I'm not. I'm matured now. Like I said, we've matured a little bit.
But isn't it funny how we look back? So I was that guy, but as a white belt. Like, I genuinely believed that I can destroy everybody I roll with when I was a white belt. Like, I was such a jerk.
And like, too, you were not only trying to prove it to your instructor, you were trying to prove it to yourself.
Oh, 100%. It was a war. It was a competition every round. Like, and I remember going home angry because black belt manhandled me, and I had no comprehension of that. First of all, there's like decades of experience plus the skill. Like, we are not even in the same universe, and you are still meathead. But that makes it fun in a retrospect, in a sense, right? Like, we can reflect on these things, and we can see the growth that we have made.
Yeah. Well, and now, just with your own experience and your own, maybe shortcomings or things you kind of wish you could have told yourself at that time, you got students now in that same position, in that same phase of their journey, so you can share with them now also. Which is nice.
Which is nice, yeah.
Trying to lead them down the right path. Also,
the right path. Yeah, most of the time they don't listen, but yeah.
No, of course not. But again, that's their journey. That's okay.
Yeah.
They'll realize it when they're where we're at now, and then they'll be able to tell their students the same thing. It's a cycle.
I had actually one of our purple belts started to teach a few months back, started getting involved in kids classes and so on. And then recently he came up to me and he goes like, man, I was such an asshole. Like, I was so mean. And I was like, yeah, you were. Why didn't you tell me? I was like, oh, I did.
Yeah, you're like,
you just didn't hear me.
I got receipts. All these days we talk.
That's the fun part. All right, Gabe, we've been at this for over an hour at this point, so slowly we're going to start wrapping this up. But like, I'm thinking, at some point, the black belt came along, and I'm wondering do you feel larger responsibility to the community, to the students, to people around you to, deliver certain level of things? Have things changed since that moment?
I mean, so I feel like it didn't change that much. I mean, there were definitely phases where I did have to get a little bit more serious and think a little bit more and take on more ownership over, my students and stuff. But I mean, I've been teaching pretty much full time since I was a purple belt. I've been teaching now full time for probably 8 years or so, maybe a little longer than that. So I feel like I've always kind of had at least a mild level of responsibility. At that time when I started teaching, I was not the head coach. Richie Martinez, he was a head coach. I was, I had probably the next most classes to him. So he was still he took on more of the ownership. He was more responsible for the members and the student base, etc. But I still had some level for sure of responsibility that I felt, and I really did try to invest into the students and help build that team up. But I think when I moved to Austin and I did take on a head instructor role, that shifted for me a little bit, where I did realize like, oh man, now everyone's looking to me. So I do have to take on more ownership, not just focus, but ownership. Like, you have to take a higher investment into each of the students.
Yeah, the safety net was removed, right? And
even more so now that I've opened up my own school. So now it's like, not even, hey, I'm not just a head instructor of the school, that's not mine. Now, this is my thing. Like, this is all, I've got full autonomy over it. It's all like, my name is the one that's attached to it. So even now, my school now has been open. This is actually like week number 3. I just opened up a 10th Planet here in Bastrop, which is about 30 miles east of Austin. But yeah, now that I have my own school, I'm feeling that responsibility a little bit more for sure. Again, going back to community, aside from obviously wanting to teach these guys good jiu-jitsu and get good technique on them and give them, a good grasp of the martial art as best I can, I also want to cultivate that community as well.
So why do you feel more pressure? I mean, technically, nothing really changed.
Sure.
Right? You taught over there, you teaching over here, different physical location. Okay, yeah, you own the academy, but some will say that has nothing to do with teaching.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer for you. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just again feeling like it is more. It's just just another level of attachment to me now. I guess that I own the school again. That's like my name on it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have a great answer for you. I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit. I'm gonna give that some
Do you
thought.
feel pressure?
What's that?
Do you feel pressure now since you have your own place?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the pressure is definitely a little bit higher. Yeah.
You think that's going to go away as the comfort level sinks in?
I think it will dissipate some, but I don't know that it will dissipate completely. But I think once the school starts to grow a little bit, I get my roots planted a little bit more. I think it'll probably settle a little bit.
It is interesting. It's interesting to listen to you talk about this because I think a lot of people have the idea of opening their own place. Right. They dream about it. They think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. I can do things better and all that. And I mean, good for them because it all starts with the dream. But
yeah,
the moment it happens, we do feel that pressure.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like a big part of that like pressure that just that weight that you feel is obviously like the fear of failure. You're like, I've been lucky to have even though it's a big role in these gyms, the gyms were kind of already established. There's already a member base, there's already infrastructure in the gym. So, I was able to move in and already have a foundation to really start helping expand and grow the gym and, grow the member base and build up a squad. But now it's like, man, I'm starting from the ground up. I mean, literally starting with 0 students and trying to build my way up is, it's just, it's a lot. It's a little overwhelming, but trying to just keep my head down and not think too much. Again, I overthink way too much. I'm constantly moving through my head. So it's an active, conscious effort for me to try to suppress that and just move forward without overwhelming myself.
Well, it's going to be interesting to, one, watch you as all of this is unfolding. Yeah. And to perhaps catch up with you in a bit of time to see how that perspective has changed, how all of this has adjusted, and how the success is converting that the perspective that we have on life. Because ultimately, I do think that having that little bit of fear, concern, keeps us in check, which we can do a good job. I do believe if we are careless about things, this is where we just they disappear. And it's similar to even competition. Like the ones who do have butterflies, they do perform well. The ones who take it casually, oftentimes, well, there's an element of surprise, and sometimes we are caught off guard. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said about that where, when you are nervous, you are feeling the butterflies. That just means you care. Mm-hmm. If you didn't care about it, you'd be like nonchalant, like, whatever, it'll be all right one way or the other. But, when you want a specific outcome and you've invested yourself into that outcome and, doing the best you can. I think that's natural that the nerves are there. I think the nerves are good. I think you're right. I think there is something to be said about that.
Well, Gabe, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for sharing your life. Thanks for sharing your story. I think it's phenomenal what you've done up to this point, and it seems like another chapter in your life is right ahead of you. It just started, new pivot point, and more amazing things coming your way. Before we wrap this up, if anyone wants to connect with you on as a follow-up to this conversation, or perhaps wants to visit you or see things from you, where are you at online? Where can we catch up with you? Instagram, websites?
I think the easiest ways to connect with me is probably just through Instagram. You know, my personal Instagram is just @Gabe_Tuttle, so super easy. And my gym's Instagram is just 10p Bastrop. The website is 10thplanetbastrop.com. So yeah, if you guys are if anybody is interested in training, they're in the greater Austin area. Like I mentioned, my school's only 30 miles east of Austin. I think
well,
it.
I'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes of this episode. So if you guys want to connect with Gabe directly, I encourage you to do it. Visit his place, his new place, and connect with him. And you got a bunch of instructionals too. So we'll include all of those. If you guys want to connect and learn from him remotely, then feel free to do it. I think it's a great resource. And why wouldn't we take advantage of it? Gabe, thanks for being here. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks for sharing your story, sharing your thoughts, sharing your philosophy. And as you continue building this brand new baby of yours, I'll be sitting back and just watching how you do amazing things and impacting your community and jiu-jitsu in general. So I appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you as well, taking the time to chat with me and hang out as well.
Let's wrap this up for today.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.